Picture this. You are at the top of your game. You are brilliant, respected, part of the intellectual elite. But the company you work for has just undergone a hostile takeover. The new CEO got a job by, let's say, permanently downsizing the old one. Now, the new management demands your absolute public loyalty. They want you on stage, smiling, endorsing their new corporate values. But you know the truth. You know the dark secrets behind their rise to power. This leaves you with an impossible choice. Do you play along, secure your career, but betray the very principles you were taught to uphold? Do you refuse, stand by your morals, and risk getting fired? Or, in 3rd century China, getting your entire existence deleted? What would you do? Comment 1 for playing along, 2 for refusal. Or is there a third way, a way to navigate this political and ethical minefield without losing your job, your life, or your soul? This wasn't a hypothetical for the group of 7 men who were like the Beatles, plus 3 more George Harrisons in China 1800 years ago. They were living it. And their radically different answers to this single, terrifying question will echo across history. They are known as the 7 sages of the bamboo grove. And this isn't a simple story of proto-hippies hiding in the forest. It's a nuanced, deeply human story about survival, choice, and what it truly means to be free when you are trapped between a rock and a hard place. Welcome to our channel. We bring you echoes across history. Grab a beer, here we go. So, you have 7 brilliant men, all staring down the barrel of the same political gun. Their famous gatherings in the bamboo grove weren't a secret rebel hideout. They were, for lack of a better term, a safe space. A place where a guy working for the regime, a guy who wanted to burn it all down, and a guy who was too drunk to know what the regime was, could all sit down and agree that the music was good and that the wine was flowing. It was basically the most high-minded, dysfunctional, and talented friend group in ancient Chinese history. Their supposed leader, Ji Kang, a handsome, towering figure, a genius musician, a Taoist philosopher, and maybe John Lennon's previous life in 3rd century. For him, there was no compromise. He saw the Sima regime as illegitimate and wanted nothing to do with it. His choice was clear: total public non-cooperation. He was a master blacksmith in his spare time, and there's a famous story of him. Stripped to the waist, muscles gleaming, hammering away at a piece of metal in his courtyard. A powerful official, Zhong Hui, came to visit, hoping to schmooze with the famous scholar. He arrived in a magnificent carriage with a huge entourage. Ji Kang didn't even look up, he just kept hammering. Zhong Hui stood there awkwardly for what felt like an eternity before finally turning to leave in a huff. As he was leaving, Ji Kang finally spoke. What did you hear that made you come? And what did you see that makes you go? Zhong Hui, completely owned, snapped back. I heard what I heard, so I came. I saw what I saw, so I go. It was the 3rd century equivalent of I have no time for your nonsense, and it made him a powerful enemy for life. Pro tip, maybe don't publicly humiliate the ambitious, insecure guy with a direct line to the emperor. Then you had Ruan Ji, the master of the unspoken. He's a poet of significant depth, haunted by the moral chaos. He couldn't bring himself to serve, but he was too clever to openly refuse. His strategy, weaponized eccentricity. His wide-eye move was legendary. Imagine having a conversation with someone and they just roll their eyes so far back you can only see the whites. It's so much more insulting than an actual insult. It's a complete dismissal of your existence. He reserves this special treatment for the endless stream of official wannabes who came to visit. But for the true friend, a fellow free spirit, he would show the blue eye, his normal gaze. It was the ultimate social filter. You knew exactly where you stood with Ruan Ji based on how much of his eyeball you could see. His drunken antics were the masterclass in plausible deniability. When the Sima clan wanted to form a marriage alliance with him, a huge political move, they sent a representative. Search your heart. What would you do if British prince or princess wants to marry you? Actually, it was the later first emperor of Jin dynasty, Sima Yan, who was originally arranged to be Ruan Ji's son-in-law. Ruan Ji's response? He stayed blackout drunk for 60 straight days. The representative literally could not find a single sober moment to deliver the proposal. Mission failed. Successfully. He wasn't refusing, he was just unavailable. Permanently. Liu Ling, the philosophical drunkard. To Liu Ling, the whole political game was so absurd. The only rational response was to abandon reason itself. He famously traveled with a cart of wine and a servant carrying a shovel, with instructions to bury me where I fall. When found naked in his house, he famously declared the universe his home and his house his trousers. Why are you in my pants? His choice wasn't political protest, it was a complete philosophical detachment from the world he deemed ridiculous. Shan Tao, the pragmatic insider, an old, respected administrator. Shan Tao believed you could work within the system to do good and protect your friends. His choice was to engage with the new government, climbing the ladder while trying to maintain his integrity. And the others, Xiang Xiu, a brilliant scholar who initially followed Ji Kang's path but made a different choice after tragedy struck. Wang Rong, a sharp, witty man who saw no problem in serving the new dynasty and becoming incredibly wealthy. And Ruan Xian, Ruan Ji's nephew, a talented musician who seemed to just enjoy the wine and good company. The story of their friendship is best told through their choices, which sometimes put them on a collision course. Shan Tao, the pragmatist, genuinely believed he could help his friends from the inside. When he was promoted, he recommended Ji Kang for his old job. In his mind, it was a bro move. Hey man, I got a new gig, you should take my old one, it's pretty sweet. For Ji Kang, the purist, it was like getting an offer from the Beat Generation friend who just joined the US Army in Vietnam. It was an insult to his principles. He responded with the now famous letter to Shan Tao, breaking off our friendship. It's one of the most eloquent, passive-aggressive letters. We are never ever getting back together in history. He basically says, my dear Shan Tao, I know you mean well, but you seem to have forgotten that I'm fundamentally incompatible with, well, pants, rules, and waking up before noon. Here are 7 reasons I cannot and will not ever work for a man. Please lose my number. It was a public declaration of his stance, and it drew a line in the sand, not just between him and Shan Tao, but between him and the entire regime. And as we know, when you draw a line in the sand, eventually the tide comes in. Ji Kang's open disdain, combined with the powerful enemy he'd made, put a target on his back. A petty legal dispute involving a friend was all the excuse the regime needed. Ji Kang was arrested, and despite mass protest from thousands of scholars, sentenced to death. His execution was a defining moment. By calmly playing his guqin and lamenting that his masterpiece music, Guanglingsan, would now die with him. He performed his ultimate act of defiance. He transformed his death from a state-sanctioned murder into a casual martyrdom. His death shattered the delicate balance of the group. It proved that the danger was real. Ji Kang's peerless path led to a glorious but fatal end. This forced everyone else to re-evaluate their own choices. Now, here's where the story gets truly deep. It's easy to look at this and say, well, Ji Kang was the hero, and anyone who worked with the government was a coward or a sellout. But that's too simple. That's not a story, that's a comic book. Critics will criticize that Ji Kang's death may have been a moral victory, but it was also a practical failure. He was gone. His genius was silenced. His family was left vulnerable. We have always empathy over judgment in our channel. Consider his best friend, Xiang Xiu. Devastated by the loss, he was later invited to take a job in the capital. A terrifying invitation. To refuse could mean follow Ji Kang to the grave. He accepted. On his journey, he wrote the heartbreaking Recollections of an Old Friend, praying Ji Kang's spirit but also subtly arguing that the true wisdom lies in understanding and adapting to the times. Was Xiang Xiu a coward? Or was he a survivor, choosing to preserve his life and carrying a friend's memory into the future, ensuring it wasn't forgotten? He chose to live, and in living, he gave Ji Kang's story another voice. You can take Ji Kang and Shan Tao as the two poles of the group. These two opposing philosophies created a fascinating tension. The rest of the sages existed somewhere on the spectrum between them. This is the real genius of the seven sages. They represent this full spectrum of valid human responses to an impossible situation. They show us that in times of a great moral compromise, there's no one-size-fits-all answer. They force us to ask ourselves, what is true courage? Is it dying for a principle or living for one? Is it better to be a dead lion or a living fox? The sages refused to give us a simple answer. Instead, they gave us 7. But to define these men only by their political choices is to miss the most important part of who they were. Their politics in daily material life was just the canvas. Their talent was the paint. These weren't just guys trying to dodge a bad government. They were titans of culture who, despite the oppressive environment, produced work that would define Chinese art and philosophy in centuries. Ji Kang wasn't just a rebel, he was one of the greatest musicians in Chinese history. His essays on music theory and philosophy are still studied today. Ruan Ji's poetry, filled with cryptic allegories and profound sorrow, became a new benchmark for literary expression. Xiang Xiu and Shan Tao, despite their official posts, were instrumental in popularizing Taoist philosophy, writing some of the most important commentaries on the work of Zhuangzi. Their work wasn't an escape from reality, it was a deeper engagement with it. In a world of ugly politics, they created transcendent beauty. This is what makes their story so powerful. It's not just that they survived, it's what they did within their time. Under immense pressure, facing constant existential threat, they didn't just hide. They created, they thought, they debated, then composed. They carved out the space for intellectual and artistic freedom where none of this should have existed. The fact that they produced such brilliant work because of, or perhaps in spite of the pressure, makes their achievements even more astounding. So, in the end, why do we still tell the story of the 7 sages almost 2 millennia later? It's not just because of the drunken antics or the dramatic executions. is because their collective story provides a thorough answer to one of life's most enduring questions: what is independent personality? They teach us that maintaining an independent personality isn't a single path, it's a way to choose your own path. For Ji Kang, independence was the uncompromising purity of the spirit, even unto death. For Shantao, it was the independence to work within a flawed system to achieve practical good. For Ruan Ji, it was the independent personality of ambiguity, of being intellectually unpinnable. For Liu Ling, it was the independence of complete philosophical detachment. They faced immense political pressure, yet they handled it in their ways. They followed their own natures, whether that nature was confrontational, pragmatic, eccentric, or hedonistic. And in doing so, they lived lives of incredible richness and meaning. They left behind a legacy of art, music, and thought that outlasted the dynasty that tormented them. That is the independent personality, and free thinking reflects the integrity of intellectuals. They create value in a world that wants to crush it, and live a story that is so uniquely their own that people will still be telling it and learning from it thousands of years later. If you believe in the power of free thinking, subscribe and become an angel investor in this exploration. You will be joining a community dedicated in finding the rebels and geniuses of history, and their stories of meaningful defiance need to be heard by your cherished friends.